Dr. Manish Kumar, what a pleasant morning to you, and very happy to see you and have you with us, sir. You're doing, I just want to say to you, you are doing a great job, and kudos to you and your team for taking up such a, I'm sure, daunting task as I know it, Skill India, and taking it to the entire country, and everybody keeps talking about it. I'm very truly honored and privileged to have you on board, sir. And I'm more than happy that you are here and you can take the floor, Mr.
Thank
Manish,
you.
Dr. Manish.
Thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this summit. I think very well timed in the midst of uh, crisis, which perhaps also is an acceleration of a process. So I'll be basically talking a little bit about what NSDC does, so that you have some bit of idea on what we do, and also 2-3 broader issues that I see as impacting the future of jobs, the way we look at it, and just to put it in perspective, when we look at the HR problem or the human resource developmental problem, we are mindful that India, if we divide it into 4 income quartiles, is quite different from often the way we perceive um, from where we are. Perhaps we interact within a limited circle, and therefore we can be quite blindsided if you're not careful, given the vastness of India, which is both a country and also a continent. 1.4 billion is the population of the entire African continent. So therefore, it's important that we have the perspective in mind. The lowest income quartile in India earns about 27,000 rupee per month or less. The second income quartile, the next 25%, which is 25% to 50%, they earn between 27,000 to 37,000. The next one is between 37,000 to 57,000 or 58,000, and anybody above 58,000 is actually the top 25% of India. Anybody who earns 88,000 rupee per month or more is actually the top 10% of India. So I think that perspective is important to get a sense of whom we are serving and what is it that we need to do. Talking a bit about NSDC, we are essentially a developmental banker, initially set up as a public-private partnership with the Government of India creating this body, but then with 51% of the share given to the private sector. So we are essentially owned by CII, FICCI, HRM, and various other industry bodies who own 51% of us, and the remaining 49% is owned by Government of India. We were given a corpus sometime in 2009-10. The money that we have used for essentially lending to private sector for creating capacity within the country for skill development. We work across 37 different sectors, from areas such as gems and jewelry, skilling people in that, to logistics, to capital goods, to aviation, and also beauty and wellness, sports. So we work across sectors, and we also work on some specific niche areas. For example, we are quite involved on the skilling of disabled people in India. We skill quite a large number of them and get them jobs. We connect them to jobs. Second work that we do is through sector skill councils that we have created. And I spoke of 37 different sectors. I mentioned a few. They are our industry body. They are led by some of the leading institutes, leading experts in the country. For example, Dr. Naresh Trehan from Medanta leads the Healthcare Sector Skill Council. And similarly, we have Mr. Dinesh in Logistics Sector Skill Council, Mr. Dinesh from TVS. And likewise, in each of this sector, we have some of the most well-known names as the chairman of that particular sector skill council. And there are lots of industrial folks who sit in that sector, and they drive something which is very key to what we do, essentially connecting our courses and contents to what is the need of the industry. So we look at through these bodies into what is the emerging job role that's there in the industry, and then align all the teachings that we do to that. So if there is, for example, the need for a particular type of job in gems and jewelry sector or in construction sector, then the competencies that we build, what we call qualification packs and national occupation standards, which are very well laid out bodies, well laid out knowledge pieces about what is it important to learn if you really wanted to excel in that job role. And what we teach, therefore, through a network of partners that we have developed over time. We have 650 partners running about 10,000 centers across India, skilling about 5 million people across all these sectors in a year. What we teach in Nagaland through a particular center is the same that we teach in Kerala because of the standardization that we have worked on over time. And the third thing that we do is essentially a lot of work that has to be done at a scalable mode. We do it through technology backbone, which we have developed over time, and that enables us also to do a lot of analytics on the real-time basis. So just to give an example, we recently set up, on 10th of July, we inaugurated something which we called as a SEAM portal, essentially a portal that is matching the supply side with the demand side. A lot of people whom we skill, as I mentioned, 5 million in a year, we put the data on the supply side, and then on the demand side, we have partners who are putting in the demand of the industry. And there's a matching which occurs, and we are using artificial intelligence in different ways. Again, these are inputs done by the private sector to ensure that the need of the private sector matches with the supply side. And also from the supply side, the candidate who's looking for a job gets a job which is nearest to his location. So in some sense, we are trying to resolve problem of both this candidate as well as of the employer. So these are new initiatives that we have taken, and as I mentioned, that IT platforms is helping us resolve them. On the analytics side, we do a lot of hardcore analysis ourselves, as well as through third partners that we believe are credible, like Indian School of Business, for that matter, IIM Bangalore, and sometimes we have even given works to universities abroad, like UCLA. The idea being that all the data that we generate, what is the impact of it? Is it making a difference? Does it really lead to change? So, for example, we know from our recent analytics that for every person who is skilled through us and then gets a job, skilled, certified, and then gets a job, compared to a person who is not skilled and still gets a job, there is a differential of 15% wages between the two, which essentially implies that skilling that we do does lead to an income change to the individuals that we train. And this is a 15% change in a 3 months time, which is quite a bit in our view. So these were, I think, broadly what I wanted to share about NSDC. But I had 3 different points about future of jobs that we look at when we think about how India is changing and how the skill requirement of India is changing. I think the first paradigm that we need to look at is a life-transforming technology that has changed the way human civilization functions. That's something which came in 90s. We call it internet, and we all, I think, consider it as part of our life today. We are completely embedded in it, and that's how I'm able to reach out to you, and you're able to hear me too, and I'm able to participate in this conference. Now, this is life transforming in the same manner as very few technologies have been in the past. One of the big change that has come about or is gradually happening, and perhaps that gradual speed is now accelerating too, is that our entire education system, which was geared to Industry 2.0, almost working like a factory line, if you look at the way we function, starting from class 1 to 2 to 3, and then you go up to class 12, go to college, and then go to a job. I think this whole Industry 2.0 paradigm having changed to Industry 4.0, which is far much more modular and far much more fast, far much more, I think, precise about what is it that is needed in that particular job. The education system is also now, as you realize, shifting towards Industry 4.0. Yes, we need transversal skills. We need foundational skills. That's all okay. And I think the knowledge part of what we gain out of education is very, very critical. But I think when you get into a job, there is a need now for a candidate to be ready into the job that he's entering. And increasingly, the nature of the job is changing itself so rapidly that there is a need for adapting to that change. A lot of job, as you are aware, is being taken over by artificial intelligence, by a new way of doing business, which is highly automated. So therefore, the nature of job is changing, and whether the person has the ability to adapt to that comes into play in a big way. And therefore, the whole issue of learning is not just about learning once, doing a BTech, for example, and then hoping that rest of your life you can continue in the job. Is the new paradigm actually calls for a continuous learning, a lifelong learning approach. And I think that's what we promote, that's what we look as the future. And we realize the vast difference that's going to come in the way we educate people in the future. And part of these things you would have noticed is also the national education policy, or the new education policy that was unveiled last week. We find a lot more emphasis on vocational skills because they in some ways make a person job ready. And that job readiness, I think, is quite critical for reasons that I mentioned. Second thing, which I believe is the change that comes because of the IT sector becoming all pervasive and actually influencing not only the areas which were traditional, but even areas which are non-traditional. They're going to impact on that. We have seen, for example, how automotive sector had changed, and you have driverless cars in US now, and the nature of how we do business in different sectors is going to change vastly. If you look at how we have changed over the last 25 years after the internet, I think we are still in infancy. It's an early phase of the changes that's occurring because of the internet and the technology that comes along with it. But I think the changes are going to accelerate at a much faster pace. We all hear about jobs being lost and a lot of stress that will come into system on account of that. But what I've also noticed is that there are new jobs being created on account of it. I think we therefore have to be mindful that we don't get too negative about the changes and actually maybe embrace change and look at opportunities that exist there, particularly for India, because I think when the IT change occurred globally, we were the ones who embraced it quickly. We are known globally as people who are good at software. So we have some of our talented people leading some of the biggest companies in the world, um, and therefore we have adapted quite well to that. I think in the new course we should see the opportunity that is arising and be mindful of the opportunity. I'll give an example of how this is important. If you look at driverless cars in US, as I mentioned, and if you think about driverless cars in California, it's actually quite surprising that it has created a lot of jobs in India. And how that happens is a lot of data goes into driving these driverless cars. And these data inputs are being made by girls who were skilled through us in Bhubaneswar, in 24 Parganas in West Bengal. And they're sitting in front of computers where they get pictures of some streets in California. And they're basically sitting and tagging what is the median of the road, what's the speed limit, and various things that they see in the picture. And then they're sending it to the cloud. And there are hundreds of such girls who maybe just barely class 12 pass, who otherwise would have been in rural parts of Odisha, not earning anything, but they are very proud that they are doing this job, earning money because of that, and actually quite independent now and quite confident about themselves. So in some sense, driverless cars in California would have led to loss of jobs in California, but it has led to new jobs to an entirely different set of people, entirely unintended consequence of that action, but very positive action. And therefore, a driverless car in California actually is picking up data that these girls have put in and is able to drive in California. I'm sure there are other inputs that goes into all of this, but I'm just giving you a sense of how positive things also come, and it's important to be realistic about that. I'm aware that with new technologies like, for example, Alexa, which is voice-based coming in, and a lot of internet in future, I'm being told will be voice-driven. And this is also going to lead to new jobs that will come in. And there are 3 languages particularly which will actually gain out of it. One obviously is English, as we all expect it to be. but the other two I'm told is Hindi and Tamil. And therefore, quite interestingly, this is also going to be beneficial to India. Finally, one last thing which I believe is very critical for the future of jobs. As the nature of job changes, I think human society is also changing. Um, in some ways, this entire COVID episode is like an acceleration of that change. And we are becoming more networked, but through the medium of internet, through the medium of digital world. And we are, as you'll observe, also becoming more collaborative than competitive. I think it's important to be aware that the future is more about collaboration than about competition. And therefore, there are certain types of soft skills which will become very critical as we go along. And some of them are complex problem solving, the ability to communicate, the ability to collaborate, the ability to function as a team. So I think in the HR world, these are things which will really matter. And even as you look for technical ability, I think the soft skills will be quite critical for future youth who are likely to join workforce. We have noted that almost 1/3 of wages that goes to a person actually is on account of their soft skills. And therefore, I think this is something which will become more emphatic in future. So I wanted to leave you with these thoughts. I'm aware that I've run out of my time, but it's a great pleasure that I'm able to join you, and I wish you all a good 2-3 days of discussions. I know that it's for several days, and I'm aware that there are lots of very eminent people joining this talk, and I look forward to be listening to them. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Hey, I'm sorry, we're getting used to technology. And thank you very much, Dr. Manish. I must say, your talk was very positive as far as I was concerned. You somehow managed to say very nice things given the current very difficult circumstances. We are all guided by your positivity, and thank you so very much for the amazing work that you're doing in Skill India or the NSDC per se, and thanks to your team. I think we all need to start talking about reskilling, upskilling, and from our end, not just look up to what the government is going to do all the time. And it is up to us as individuals and laypersons to be able to also look at what's happening, what's out there, what is needed. And of course, try and use what the government is so nicely being rolling out in terms of the skill program per se. I think a couple of things I just wanted to observe, make an observation. I mean, you so very clearly started talking about collaboration as the way forward and not competition. I think this, to be honest with you, Dr. Kumar, this concept is going to take a bit of time for it to gain roots within us as business community, within us as individuals. So I think it's a great topic. I personally believe in it a lot, and that's why you will see that most of the partners that we have based on meeting of the mind rather than meeting of the wallet, if you know what I mean. So it's like it's non-commercial, but it's a lot more to do with more of a strategic intent in terms of having to partner with all the right people, having to partner with you or have you on board. It's in itself a great achievement for us. We are a small company, Dr. Kumar, and this is our first virtual offering as well. I'm truly honored to have you on board, and thank you so very much for your very crisp delivery of your thoughts and vision that you have, and kudos to you and your team. I just have not too much time. If you allow me, there are a couple of questions that people have posted, if you don't mind. I know you have touched upon or answered these, but it's my obligation to ask the question because somebody has asked it. Because it got also a lot of votes on it on our app. So what do you think will be the future scope of the human resource profession? So I think this is the first question that has come from the audience. So I know you started talking about it, about reskilling or taking on new kind of skills and collaboration and so on and so forth. But do you have any thoughts on this question, please?
Yeah, so I think the HR profession is also undergoing changes, and I can see that in several ways. So, for example, I will bring your attention to an app that we have used, which we call NAC app, KNACK app, APP. So NAC app, you can actually download it from Google Store or
Sure.
Apple, and it's essentially a language agnostic game I found. And you play that game. Is 2 games actually, and you play about for 20 minutes these games, and it decomposes the individual's personality into uh, about 70 different traits. So what is the kind of resilience you have, how collaborative you are, what is your grit, what kind of tenacity you have, so various kind of human attributes that the individual has. I don't know how this developed by a behavioral economist from Harvard, actually, so it's very credible. And it's able to, therefore, give a sense when you do it for a company, when you do it for a particular job role, you get a sense of what is the profile of the person that really matters or really excels. And I think increasingly, the human resource professional will have to move towards new tools and techniques. The old ones obviously are the base that's essential for any growth. But the new ones will be much more, I guess, AI-based. They're going to be much more agile. They're going to become much more specific to that particular company, to that particular job. So therefore, the profile of a best person when it comes to gems and jewelry might be very different when you look at somebody on the logistics side. Yet, after doing all this, there is another thing which we are doing at the moment is we are creating what we call, along with a partner actually, and Guru. That's, I think, one of the I should name that agency because they are the ones who brought this thought to us, and we are working with them on this. Essentially about mapping the competencies of an individual as we go from one sector to the other sector. So let's say that it's like a Google map of skills. So if I were to go from Gurgaon to Delhi, it shows me a particular pathway. But when I go, I can actually look on my left and I can look on my right and see different streets. And I could ask my car driver to take a turn. Now, in this model, what we're trying to do is we are basically laying out the competencies and then checking out that if I was going from one stop to another, that's my future aspiration. Is it possible that on my left-hand side or on my right-hand side, there are entirely new sectors to which I'm compatible, but I'm not aware, simply because nobody has told me the map
Right.
of my competencies. So I think these are new things which are emerging. HR needs to, I think, operate more and more into these kind of ideas, and develop them. Because I guess in future, and particularly for next 30, 40, 50 years, the changes are going to be very, very rapid. And the need to adapt to it will also therefore be very intense. And you will probably reach the plateau much later. But until that time, it's going to be quite a bit of a task for HR, and they got a lot to do.
Excellent. Thank you so very much for that answer. I mean, I'm quite interested in what you talked about competencies per se, because my perception about competencies, or the lack of it, or the lack of the framework or the mapping of competencies in India is really pronounced, and that gives rise to tremendous amount of gap between what the business expects and what people deliver as employees. And that, to me, lies at the core of every single disagreement between an employee and the employer, or in other words, a staff and his manager or her manager. So we've been looking at it from outside and inside for quite some time, and I just want to share something that we are working on as an initiative. We are putting together a complete competency mapping, as you rightly said. based on industry, and we are going to we've put together the brightest minds around the world in terms of mapping these competencies, and we are going to bring out a book of knowledge on competencies per se very, very soon, and it's going to be open source. It's going to be out there for anybody to access. There is no commercial intent. This is towards building a framework where we identify skill gaps. We identify what skills are needed, not for today, not in the past, but what is needed tomorrow. So I think that is an area that we are working on, and very, very happy, because it is pro bono, we're very happy to share that with someone like you, to be able to give us some sort of a guidance or thoughts in the near future, hopefully.
That'd be great.
Having said that, Dr. Manish, I truly appreciate for you being there for us and being here at the event. Thank you, sir. Is there anything else you would like to? I know you're a very busy man, Dr. Manish, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. Is there anything else you would like to share, sir?
I'm good. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure interacting with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your joining us. Thank you so much.
Thanks.